is context. It's like right now on the internet, we are like totally lost with all the apocalyptic stories that are going on. I mean, there's the situation with the wildfires in Russia burning up all the radioactive facilities that have plagued Russia for so long, and all that smoke is going to be going elsewhere, maybe into Europe. And one of the new guys on the block who has really made a splash is Gordon Duff from Veterans Today. He has just come out with one fantastic story after another, and he's an old Marine fighter pilot. People like that, new people on the web, are maybe taking some of our support that we've had in the past because they've been more productive and more on point. So I think even though we're both in trouble and maybe have fewer listeners than we have in the past, I don't think those people have gone away. So I just think they've moved on to bigger and better things, and it's hard to admit that we might be becoming relics of the past, and we might want to bemoan not getting the support that we used to enjoy. But I really think that whole deal is primarily caused by all these new people who have gone where we urge them to go.
Well,
and there is
but John, this is not anything different than what's happening. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I'm not really buying into the idea that we're in the past, because what has been done has been. I haven't done anything wrong here. I have been doing the same thing. I've been doing the same thing, the same kind of work for 20 years, investigative reporting, and I'm used to getting the heat. I mean, the people that run Indian motorcycles and hired me to do PR, if they hadn't been crooks, they would have still been in business today. If they hadn't been scammers, if they hadn't been trying to do that. So, I've kind of made it my job to infiltrate and investigate. Not infiltrate, investigate. I'm just me. I'm just Clay Douglas, man. And I've been a biker, and I've been a boater, and I've been a presidential speechwriter and bodyguard. So I've got the experience here. And what I've done for the last 20 years is bring people in and educate people like Ron Paul. Ron Paul was a subscriber to the Free American for years. So
right.
These people that you're talking about, Howard Duff, you are still very, very viable.
That's Gordon Duff, not Howard Duff.
I'm sorry, Gordon Duff. And there's people that are putting out this information that are good, and I'm not saying just listen to me. I'm saying listen to these people. When they're talking to you and telling you that Iran hadn't done anything to us, Iraq hadn't done anything to us, Afghanistan hadn't done anything to us, and the communists damn sure didn't do it. We went into Vietnam for control of the Golden Triangle, and the CIA was bringing the drugs in here. But people are still, if there's not this moderating influence, people will buy wholeheartedly, and you did an excellent job of pointing that out with your letter to white racists. Now, all the white racists out there, they don't want to have anything to do. They vowed to destroy me, so they become as much my enemies as the Jews. I said, at least I made money off of the Jews. You idiots have never donated or invested a thing in me trying to tell you, hey, you're right about Christian identity to a point, but when you're talking about Eve sleeping with the devil, you're quoting the Talmud. My God.
Well, we could go a long way on that tangent, but we'll save that for another day. It comes back to, I think, the people who are providing the best information, and while we may have good pedigrees at providing the information, consumers are always interested in the latest stuff. But I've written this about a lot of time. I've written about this a lot of times, that and have arrived at a kind of a stunning conclusion about it, where when you think about it, the truth about each of these events actually becomes a distraction. There's so much truth to be consumed out there, whether it's about the oil spill or 9/11 or Jewish influence in America or food poisoning or any of this stuff. There's so much truth out there that the truth becomes a distraction, and we become sort of adults with the overproduction of this horrible truth that's being put out, and we can't see what to do about it or how to put it all into context. Now, in the past, we have been able to do that in a very simple way just by pointing out the Jewish influence in any given situation has had a fairly consistent track record of pointing out who the perpetrators really are. Now, this video that you presented on your website and you played a little bit of this morning kind of plays into that, and it is probably one of the main dangers to everyone, whereas in the truth movement, we have people who present only part of the truth as a way of kind of letting off steam, and we've seen this phenomenon with Wolf in particular, where he and his Jewish commentators will kind of put out quite a large portion of the truth, but as is also the case with Alex Jones, at the last moment they deflect it and say they either can't name the real culprits, which is the Jewish superstructure, or and they use terms like vague terms like the Illuminati or the powers that be, and we wind up not ever solving anything. We get titillated by all these fantastic stories and amazing facts, but we don't get to go the final step, which is to ID the perps and to chart out some kind of course of action, because the course of action requires an even greater sacrifice on our part initially than just going along with what's happening, because you and I both know that there's no reforming this system, and that people who aspire to become our new leaders and our new congressmen, like Rand Paul, are part of the problem themselves, because they believe in the system, and the system is totally screwed.
It's it's one world government of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers, but it's been this way for thousands of years, probably 4,000. I mean, you know, I've got an article that I want to put up. I haven't had a chance to do it, about slavery, and us white folks were the slaves. Over half of the people that came to America were slaves, indentured servants.
Yes. I think a lot of people know that. I think now I think we have to evolve, Clayton, because the information that we put out, well, the old information, all the old and forgotten writers like Douglas Reed and Eustace Mullins and people like that, while it's very important that people understand what they said, because that gives them the education to realize what's really happening to them, there's a lot of new stuff that's going on, and a lot of people coming out with this new stuff. And I think as much as the Jewish tinkering or the Jewish monkey wrenching of our efforts has made us both broke, I think too there is such a larger choice of places to get information, and of course a lot of those places are somehow sabotaged by Jewish influence. It's all about Jewish influence. They're nevertheless going to those other places rather than supporting us, because they think, and in some ways we are, kind of old hat and repetitive at this point. So we have to continually come up with new ways of attracting people to our message, and maybe both of us haven't been as good at doing that as some other people are out there. So I think
the point is we're also, John. Wait a minute. We're also the victims of divide and conquer. You know, after I got out of the hospital from a life-threatening injury, in more ways than one, you know, none of the patriot hosts, no Alex Jones out there, no GCN, no John Stadmiller, wanted to even talk to me, wanted to have me on, wanted to tell the public what happened to the Free American magazine. I had 10,000 readers of the Free American.